Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. After a great performance in a Europe League and the huge chance to finish top of the table for the first time ever in the Europe League, Lazio played Alasdair on Sunday night against Fiorentina at home. And it wasn't the same game, right? Against Real Sociedad, we saw Lazio starting so well, immediately scoring and dominated the first half. Yesterday night, Lazio started. A lot of other people said it looks like derby all over again, right? First 80 minutes, two goals conceded, two bad goals. We have so many things to talk about, Alistair, that I really don't know where to start. The referee, Adam Marusic, the goalkeeper. Uh, I mean, first of all, Alistair, let's thank all our Patreon for their support. Amazing support. Thank you very much, guys. We did the first Q&A exclusively for our Patreon last week, so check it out. We're going to do another one in February. So if you want to join us and support us, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge membership starts at $2 a month. But Alistair, when do we start? Again, two stupid goals after 80 minutes. I turned around to my son and said, the game is over already.
Yes. It was, this is why we love football. This is why we sometimes hate football. The mood swings you can have in the space of 3 days, from feeling so good about ourselves and after the Sociedad match to today. It was an immensely frustrating game, as a spectacle, as a performance, as a result. And it's just such a missed opportunity, Vittorio. That's the thing that's killing me today. You look at the table and the results of the weekend, and Juventus finally losing. And God, if Lazio had just managed to pull out, I don't think they even needed to be 10 out of 10 yesterday. I think they could have won that game being 7 or 8 out of the 10, but instead they were 4 or 3 or whatever you want to call it. And that means that instead of going 5 points clear in the top 4, they're now just being dragged right back into this huge group of teams chasing that one place again. It was another bad performance in a big game, another bad performance at home, and we have to talk about the home form becoming an issue in Serie A. And I think we're probably going to get one of the most epic Vittorio's referee rants of all time today. So,
Look, last night I thought I had a heart attack at the game because the referee was so bad, embarrassing. I think if he doesn't get suspended forever, then there is a big issue there in the Serie A. But you mentioned a couple of interesting points. Last game in Serie A, obviously, Lazio won at home, is 24th of November, Lazio Bologna 3-0. It's true that we didn't have an easy fixture because we had Inter, Atalanta, the Derby, Como, and Fiorentina. But of these 5 games, not winning one, that's not a good sign, right?
No, and you're right. It wasn't an easy set of games, but you would back Lazio previously to be getting wins in these games. You would back Lazio in big matches in previous seasons in a way that we can't this year. And like you alluded to in your introduction, it was kind of worrying, I thought, how similar this was to the derby, because that shows that there is a way of exposing this team that is perhaps going to become a blueprint. And my worry really is that, we've debated a little bit on and off why Lazio are having problems in big games. And I think we're seeing in these matches that the attack doesn't have enough quality. When big teams or teams with more quality decide against Lazio that once they're in the lead, they can just defend, which Roma and Fiorentina did. Lazio don't have the creativity. They're not clever enough. They're not sharp enough to get through. And we stack up these matches, Inter, Atalanta, Roma, and Fiorentina, and we've lost by an aggregate score of 11-1. We've scored 1 goal in 4 matches and conceded 11. And okay, the defense conceding goals, I think we have said for a while now, that's just something we kind of have to accept as part of Baroni's football, that we're going to concede more and score more. But the issue is that blueprint isn't working in big matches, because we're still going to be conceding the goals, but they can't score against big teams. They did the same thing yesterday. It was spending almost an hour in the opponent's half, throwing bodies forward, and just having to try and find a way through, and they couldn't do it. And they didn't even look like they were going to do it until that final 5-10 minutes of complete chaos.
Before talking about the attack, Alistair, I want to talk about the defense, because a lot of criticism yesterday at the stadium. Now, the first goal, Maruzic lose a dreadful ball, but Provedel should have saved that one, right? And it made it even more embarrassing seeing De Gea making some incredible saves on one side and Provedel conceding a sloppy goal, right? The first one. On the second, how many times have we saw Maruzic forgetting the man behind him and going too centrally and leaving the one behind him all alone inside of the box and easy heading into the goal? I mean, we saw this goal time and time again. Isn't he's 32 years old? He should learn from mistakes, right? So I guess these are two questions in one. What do you think about Provedel? Is it time for the change? And there were rumors about renewing the contract of Adam Maruzic. I hope that doesn't go through, because he's a good player, but not a Champions League player, right?
Well, I mean, it was a weird night for Maruzic, because it was almost like the complete opposite of what we normally get from him, which is we usually think of him as being kind of more dependable defensively, but he doesn't offer that much in attack. And last night, defensively, he was a bit of a liability for those goals. And then he was the guy who got us back in the game, and then had this 30-yard, bullet shot saved by De Gea in stoppage time. And all of a sudden, Adam Maruzic was our biggest attacking threat in the game. So, yeah, it was a strange one. I still maintain what I said last time you asked me this, which is that I would keep him at the club, not on a huge long-term contract, but as a squad player, because I think his versatility experience is really useful. But I wouldn't want him to be your starting fullback. I think he's just useful in the squad to have as cover. And on Provedel, it's, again, I don't think it's that different to other discussions we've had about him, which is that the issue isn't that he's making big howlers. The issue's just that we're not seeing him making amazing saves. And that's when it's hard, I think, for Baroni to go and drop him, because you almost need a reason to drop the guy who's been so nailed on as a number one for so many years and was keeper of the season, a couple of seasons ago. You almost need him to be making big, high-profile mistakes to have a reason to do that. And he's not. And I know what you mean. He can maybe do better in a few moments, but none of these things are really huge errors. It's just that you feel that the Provedel of 2 years ago would be making the dream save, the miracle save, to actually get you out of a difficult position. And perhaps it's surprising we've not seen him do more of that this year, when Lazio's defense is so fragile that he's got more to deal with.
But don't you think that seeing Mandas playing in Europe League is enough to make? I mean, we are seeing two different teams in Europe League. Even if we rotate, we have a decent defense, much better than in Serie A. In Serie A, where we are playing the starters, we are conceding. So, I mean, last Sunday, Lazio beat Verona 3-0, but after we scored, we immediately conceded a huge chance to Verona. Obviously, it's Verona, and so you have a big chance they're going to miss it. But if you concede the same chance to Juventus, Milan, Inter, Fiorentina, etc., this is what happened. They score. So I think we have to do something. And I think the goalkeeper in modern football has become more and more important. Yes, now it's important to have a keeper who has a pass as a number 9, because has to be very good in the passing. But I still prefer a keeper who makes saves rather than do incredible long ball passes, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess likewise, the other issue Baroni would have in making a big call like that is that we haven't seen Mandas, having man of the match performances in Europe. He's fine, he's dependable, but he's not been like a standout player particularly. So it kind of makes that decision hard for him. Because goalkeeping is a lot about confidence, and you lose a lot of confidence if your coach just turns around seemingly out of the blue and says, we're going to give someone else a go. But, Mandas is a good number two, and Lazio haven't had a good number two all that often in recent years. So, yeah, it's tricky. I don't expect it to happen, to be honest. I think he'll keep doing what he's been doing. I think Mandas will probably play in Braga on Thursday, and then he'll crack on with the kind of cup keeper situation.
Alasdair, I want to talk about Baroni because you were mentioning big games. So far, we played 8 big games, right? In these 8 games, we got 5 points. 3 beating Napoli, 1 drawing at home against Atalanta and AC Milan. Obviously, it's not enough, right? And the thing that concerned me is the decision Baroni makes in these big games. I mean, even Real Madrid prepare big games differently, right? You cannot go full attack mode against teams that are better than you because you're going to concede chances. And as I was saying before, against Verona, Venezia, maybe they're going to miss big chances. But if you concede huge chances to Milan, Inter, and those big teams, they're going to score. The only game we won was probably the only game where we were more careful against Napoli away. Lazio played, I would say, a different type of football, always offensive mind, but more careful, right? And
Yeah.
and you can see the difference. First half, Napoli played better; they had more chances, but we were careful. Second half, we played better than Napoli and we won. I think Baroni has to go back to Napoli game and say, okay, against big teams, we have to play this type of football because it's not always Venezia that you can do 1 goal down and recover, right?
The funny thing is, I was looking at that Napoli game, and the team, obviously, we had those back-to-back matches where we beat them in the Coppa Italia, and it was kind of like, B team against B team, and then went and beat them in Serie A as well with A team against A team. But Lazio also had Deli Bashiru starting ahead of Ravella in that game, the game in Naples, which I'd kind of forgotten, to be honest. It was almost identical team. I think I got it up here. The only difference was Tavares was playing instead of Pellegrini. Otherwise, it was the same team. So I don't think the issue is so much the selection, because Ravella not starting yesterday was a big mistake, I think, from Baroni. But that Napoli game does go to show that Lazio can win big games with that midfield if they have a different approach to the game. And I don't know if a bit of complacency had crept in, and a bit, after those 2 wins, feeling very confident, looking at Fiorentina's form and thinking, we've got this. Because the manner that they started the game with was really poor. And one thing they have to do better is defend the box, because teams are always going to get chances down the wings against Lazio because there seems to be so much space there all the time. From the transition, the turnovers, Lazio are attacking down the wings a lot. Zaccagni and Isaacson, I think, have got better at trying to help out, but they're generally going to be exposed at times. Our fullbacks haven't been defending brilliantly. We know Tavares isn't a defender. Pellegrini's not been covering himself in glory yesterday.
No.
Marisic, you mentioned. Lazzari. So if people are going to be able to get into those positions and get crosses in, the one thing we have to do is deal with those. And yesterday, there was way, way, way too much space in the box. And I think that's, as much as anything, where we miss Ravella. We shouldn't ever underestimate how good he is defensively in his positioning of being in the right spots to intercept balls and block shots and all the rest of it. And I think it was the first goal, particularly Deli Bashiru and Guendouzi got in a big mess in terms of who was tracking who, and everyone got drawn to the goal and left all that space behind. So
So let's talk about Rovella, because after the game, the sport director said, "Well, Rovella was away on Saturday, so he came back very late because her aunt died and went to the funeral, and so that's why we didn't start him because he arrived late on Saturday night." Which makes sense, but it doesn't because you brought him in at the end of the first half. So if he's not ready to start, he's not ready to come in the second half, right? So if he's able to play, then he should have started the game. Otherwise, that excuse doesn't count. Plus, Alasdair, he's not going to play on Thursday because he got another yellow card, so he's banned from the next Europe League game. So he could have rest on Thursday instead of yesterday. And this is another thing on Baroni. I think he's making poor decisions in big games. You mentioned Dele Bashiru against Napoli, but that makes sense because they had Anguissa. So, you put a physical player against a physical player. So you cancel Anguissa. That makes sense. But Verona, you needed Rovella to defend better and move the ball rather than defending on Foloruscio. So, again, uh, you see what is lacking in Baroni mentality. In big games, he's often overplayed by the other manager.
Yeah. And I think when we appointed Baroni, there was obviously a lot of expectation that this year could be difficult for him because it's a big step up. He's had a long career, but he's never had a job of this level before. And he has generally exceeded all expectations in terms of how he's dealt with new things like playing 2 or 3 games a week and juggling European and domestic and using the rotating his squad properly and all that kind of stuff that's relatively new to him. But this is the thing that really, more than anything, he is struggling with. You're right. It's how you approach big games and how you approach big games, not just when you're the underdog, but when you're the favorite, because that's where Lazio were last night, and it was, you could have easily made the argument for the derby as well. Lazio, on paper, were the form team and the favourite to win that game because Roma were not in a good place. Lazio on both counts have completely failed. I don't know. I think it's more than just selection. I think there is really an argument about the approach, that he might have to change the way the team plays in the league games against lower table teams and teams with that additional quality. But the ability to kind of blow teams away has helped Lazio get to where we are this season. But you're not going to blow away teams with that quality. And that really was, I mean, I said this right at the start, but that really was something that concerned me last night, was again seeing when a bigger team comes to Rome and they decide to camp 10 people in their own half and say, come and get us, Lazio can't do it. And it was only in that complete madness in the final stoppage time periods where they managed to get one back. Husai to Marasic, not my predicted combination of players to get a goal back. But when it comes to that, the normal patterns of play in the attacking third, Isaacs and Zaccagni, Dia, Tati, it's just not working. I don't know. And I'm not sure how he changes that without getting more players in the team.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I thought when we hit the post at the last second, I couldn't believe it. I'm still there. I'm still wondering how the ball didn't get in. That's incredible.
The thing is, though, even if that had gone in, it wouldn't really have changed much about what we're saying today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But
because it still would have been a bad result drawing against Fiorentina at home.
Well, you're 2-0 down after 80 minutes, so
I know, but on the face of it, if you'd said to us, yesterday morning, would you take a draw tonight? You'd say no. Fiorentina hadn't won a game in over a month and a half. I mean,
yeah. A friend of mine,
either way.
A friend of mine sent me a text. Are we going to draw tonight? And I said, I don't want to. Then after 80 minutes, I wrote him back. I hope we do. And it was too late, So, but we talked about this a lot, Alasdair, in this podcast. Tati Castellano yesterday had one chance, the header when he anticipated De Gea, and that's it. I mean, in 96 minutes, where Lazio was in the second half pretty much camping uh, in the half of Fiorentina, your number 9, your striker, doesn't do nothing at all. That's concerning. And, Pedro came in and did much more than Tati Castellano is in the last 2 games, I think. And Pedro is 36, right? So this is the biggest problem we're having.
Yeah, I was surprised Noslin didn't get on sooner as well.
Mm.
He's supposed to have been our big summer signing as a striker. It was supposed to be Noslin. And, we spoke about him recently, and the fact that he is actually better at converting chances when he gets them. It's just that he's not playing all that much and he's not getting that many chances.
Well, someone could argue that pretty much every striker we have is better in finishing than Tati Castellanos. We talked about Dia, and we said he's a better finisher. Noslin, he's a better finisher. Pedro, he's a better... I mean, going forward, we're going to say, hey, Nuno Tavares is a better finisher. Provedel is a better finisher. Come on. This is a problem, Alisson. This is really a problem. And let's not forget this. We signed one player so far in this winter market. He didn't even warm up yesterday, and we were losing 2-0. And he's a attacking midfielder, trequartista, how the hell you want to call him. And he didn't warm up. 2 games called, 0 minutes played. This is not a good sign, right?
I'm sure we'll see him eventually. Yeah, I think Baroni probably felt he wanted people he felt he knew and could trust more in that situation. But and yeah, you could say, if you were to flip it around, that Baroni's changes impacted the game yesterday, because Ravella came on, made an impact. Husai came on and made an impact. Pedro came on, hit the post. But then again, you could easily just say, well, they should have all been starting. You can make the argument for all of those guys too.
I mean, why Husai didn't start? The last 2
Yeah,
games he played, he was terrific. Pellegrini
especially
was
with
fantastic.
the midweek suspensions we've got, and yeah, it's definitely a learning experience for him. He's a very positive guy, so he is kind of talking about this and trying to say he liked what he saw in the second half and stuff. I mean, I hope he's just saying that to continue the good vibes kind of message he's been doing all season. I'm sure privately he'll feel that wasn't good enough and he'll be able to work on it. But also in that attack, I think they need to find a different way to attack in those situations. Sorry to bring it back to this again, but I just think it's a bit too intricate at times. When you've got 4 guys in Dia, Isaacson, Zaccagni, and Tati, they kind of want to do all these link-ups together, and it's great to watch when it's in transition or when they've got a bit more space. But against those like deep-lying 5-man defense kind of situations, being really physical, they're just closing down the spaces, and they're trying to do these, fast balls into feet, back to goal, little layoffs here and there to try and carve a path through. And I just don't, it's just not seeming to ever connect properly to get them into those spaces. And it was actually when they went way more direct at the end, and it was literally just, chucking long balls in and getting set pieces and that kind of thing. And that actually caused Fiorentina far more issues than when Lazio were just trying to attack in their usual way.
Alasdair, 24 minutes have been really, really good. Now
Go on. Go on.
We have to talk about the referee, because, I mean, yesterday he was embarrassing. I hope, this morning he woke up and called the Aya, said, hey, I'm not good enough. I should be retiring. Because yesterday he was a completely disaster. I mean, a joke from the start till the end. The red card of Adli is simply embarrassing. He wasted time on the pitch, and you gave him a red card after he was subbed, and you wasted 3 minutes and you didn't give extra time for that. That was a completely joke. De Gea, after the 2-0, wasted time for 85 minutes, and you never gave him a yellow card. Every time you said, hey, hurry up. For 20 times you said, hurry up, without giving a yellow card. I never saw nothing like that. Dodo was, I mean, it's unbelievable. Dodo finished the first half without a yellow card. He made so many fouls, wasted so many time. It's really this Rapuano has been terrible against Lazio already in the past. It's annoying to see this type of referee. I'm not saying that we lost because of the referee. We mentioned all the mistakes Lazio did, but definitely he didn't help. The goal Lazio scored and he disallowed, the ball wasn't out and he didn't notice and nobody called him from the VR. There are so many yellow cards missing from Fiorentina that it's unacceptable. In the first half, he gave 2 minutes of extra time while one player of Fiorentina lie dead in the pitch for 6. So Ranieri fell in the second half at least 5 times on the floor, complaining about dying pretty soon. And then as soon as the ball was on play, suddenly revived. So this referee has to be ashamed of himself. Yes, Lazio didn't lose only for the ref, but my God, if something happened against Inter like that, the Serie A committee will disqualify the referee forever.
The funny thing is, I was following some Fiorentina accounts on social media last night, and they weren't happy with him either. So this was kind of what I was saying to you before we came on. It was spectacularly bad, not only for all the reasons you've outlined, but
Yes,
because he got everything wrong.
yeah, but the Fiorentina are not really honest. I mean, they complain even again in Fiorentina Lazio when the referee considered an incredible, embarrassing penalty at the last minute, and they say, no, that was penalty, and Patrick should have been sent off. Tavares should be disqualified. So they are not very honest as a football fan.
The point I'm making more is that he was so spectacularly bad that kind of like everyone across the board was unhappy with him, and that he got so many different kinds of decisions wrong throughout the game about when to give cards or not to, when to give fouls or not to, when the ball was in or out of play, how to control the coaches on the touchline or not, how to, he lost control of this game so early on.
Yeah.
And with the time wasting was the most shameless time wasting I've seen for quite a long time. And I was surprised by that because Fiorentina have a good team and they were playing well and they could have easily been 3-0 up if that Goodmanson shot hadn't come off the post. And I didn't really understand why they were playing like that because I didn't think they needed to beat Lazio last night.
No.
And the thing is, with that time wasting, measures have come into the game in order to try and stop teams from doing this. And one of them being that you don't have to stop the game or kick the ball out if someone goes down unless it's a head injury. So when Ranieri's rolling around or whoever it is, I mean, it was every 2 or 3 minutes there was a Fiorentina player down. You just play on. And look, we scored a goal against Inter, that hilariously controversial goal last season, was it? Or I think last
2 years ago.
2 years ago, when a player was down, because you don't have to stop the game. There is no rule to do that. So I don't know why he was allowing that to happen. He should just be saying play on. And the weird thing was he was then saying play on after fouls that were so blatant that all the players seemed to stop playing, and he would just say play on. And then I think the best moment of highlighting his crazy inconsistency was in the second half when Zaccagni got completely body checked off the ball and everyone kind of stopped, but he said play on, and Zaccagni came up, got back on his feet and did exactly the same foul to Dodo, and he gave Fiorentina a free kick. And I think at that point everyone just lost it. Honestly, I was in the press box last night, and I've rarely seen, I mean, often people get angry with referees, but I've rarely seen like an entire press box kind of like rise to his feet shouting at this referee along with all the fans. It was crazy how bad his evening went.
No, it was terrible, really terrible. I think he had an impact on the game, and I think you were right saying that if Fiorentina, instead of wasting time, would kept playing, probably they would have scored another goal for sure. I mean, we struggled every time Fiorentina had a chance. We struggled, and I don't know. I thought Romagnoli wasn't in a great shape, and Gila as well didn't have his best match ever. So it was silly because if the last shot of Pedro didn't hit the post, they could have lost 2 points, two stupid points. So that's something we have to point out. And yeah, I mean, my God, this ref was terrible. I hope this was his last game in Serie A. I don't think so, but I mean, he's been terrible, terrible. And sending off Baroni because he was complaining about the time Fiorentina players was losing. You didn't give a yellow card for wasted time to a single player except from Adli, who you sent off when he was on the bench, and you send off my manager because he was complaining. That's really silly. The other thing, Alasdair, is a referee should be smart enough to understand, to read the game. He didn't. He completely was out of the game from probably the start till the end.
I just lost control.
Yep.
Completely lost control. Yeah, it's very frustrating. I mean, I think you said right at the start that you didn't think that Lazio have lost the game because of this. And I think you're right, because the funny thing is, this isn't kind of like outrage based on a bad penalty decision or a game-changing moment where a goal's been disallowed or a red card has been ignored. It wasn't even something like that. It was just the general officiating, the general decision making throughout the game. So yeah, I hope we don't see him again for a while in a Lazio match, certainly. And I'm glad we don't have to play Fiorentina again this season if that's the way they're gonna go around their matches. I understand that it was a big result for them and they needed to turn their form around and the rest of it, but I just think they can do better than spending 60 minutes rolling around on the ground.
Alistair, can we say something? We are recording the 27th of January. The transfer market closes in Italy the 3rd of February, if I'm not wrong. And yesterday we noticed that this team have glaring holes that need to be filled. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen, right? Dele Bashiru starting. I think Dele Bashiru is going to be a great player, but not in that position. We talk about our fullbacks that were dreadful yesterday. It's not a surprise. Everybody could see that happening. We have so many needs, and we have just 6 days. And I don't think we're going to not only fill them whole, but probably not more than one if we're lucky, right? This is something we have to point out. The team has been overperforming so far, even though we didn't win a lot of big games. But going forward with this squad, we don't have a chance.
Yeah, and it's nothing we're not used to, but it is always frustrating every January. And the thing we said right at the start of this month, which is that you have the whole month. You need to act now to help the team, strengthen the team, because a full month is a long time. There's only 8 of them in a season, so get moving. And then you look at January's results now. We've lost to Roma, drawn with Como, beat Verona, and lost to Fiorentina in terms of Serie A results. So we picked up 4 points out of a possible 12. That's not great. In a month where if they were actually organized and proactive and had gone and tried to sort things out and had a plan from day one, we could have had additional resources for all of those games.
And you said a strange word, plan.
Well, exactly, but it's just, I don't know why it's still frustrating, because it's always been like this, but every month it is frustrating once again. So
not only can we say something about the winter transfer market. Winter transfer market is not for signing youngsters like Ibrahimovic, who can be, a great star in 3 years' time. Transfer market in winter is what Juventus did. You signed Colomwani, who is plug and play player, right? He's ready to go. Now, he started against Napoli, and I know he scored, and that's not important, but he played from the start, right? You sign a player in January because he needs to play tomorrow, not in 3 months' time.
Yeah.
You sign Colomani, that is a player ready to go. You don't sign Ibrahimovic that needs month to get ready. 2 games, he was on the bench. He didn't even warm up. 0 minutes. Colomani, first game, started, goal, etc., etc. This is the signing you need to do in winter, not youngster. The youngsters, you sign them in January, in July, the summer, not in January. In January, ready to go players, and please, not Kamenovic.
Yeah, and also Kolomoani is a good example of the kind of deal you can do, because if you can find a player, big player at a big club who's just not getting the game time, you can get that dry loan, 6 months in and out. All you have to do is pay the wages. Obviously, depending
Pay.
on the player,
What?
that can change. But the idea that it's kind of all or nothing isn't really true. There are always creative ways around reinforcing your squad, and almost everyone else does it. Um, and yeah, the Ibrahimovic signing in the long term may work out to be a great deal. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is what I said earlier. I don't think Baroni felt confident enough to trust him to go into that game and deal with the pressure and the atmosphere and make a difference, because he's only just arrived and he's new and he doesn't know his role and all the rest of it. And that's not what we really need right now, which is reinforcements to come and help the team immediately.
I'm gonna leave you with a news that popped out this morning that it's hilarious. Lazio's thinking to put out of the list Castrovilli to add Toma Basic because he's more physical ready. I'm happy you're laughing because I'm not.
If you don't laugh, you cry. So,
Yep.
yes, well, that sums it up. Really, I think that says a lot about where we're at the moment.
Yep.
And look, it's the good thing is we've got a European game coming up now, and the Europa League for once is bringing us great joy this season. So we can immediately start feeling happier again when we think about the Europa League.
Yeah, it feels like we are in a different multiverse, right? Like the Marvel
Yeah.
superheroes. Usually, Europe League was sadness and pain. Instead, now it's joy, which is unbelievable. But anyway, thanks, Alasdair, for joining me. Thanks to all our Patreon. By the way, guys, I know there are a lot of people planning to come to Rome to watch the derby. I don't know why, because last derby wasn't great. But if you're planning to come, call us, alert us, so we can have a sort of Lazio Lounge dinner before the game, the day before the game, or the morning of the day. I know Alasdair is already booking a table close to Ponte Milvio, so it would be nice to catch up with all of you incredible fans of the podcast. So let us know if you're planning to come. And obviously, thanks to all our Patreon. You can subscribe at patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at $2 a month. There's a private chat with us. There's the podcast ad-free, and every month a Q&A exclusively for our Patreon. So if you like the show and want to help us, you know where to find us. Thanks, Alasdair. Thanks, everybody. And we're going to be back after Braga Lazio. Take care.
Cheers.